class. So today we are doing the day 2 notes, so you should have those out. If for some reason you weren't here yesterday and you need a notes packet and a homework packet, just ask the sub. There are some on the cart behind my desk. Okay, so the first conic that we're going to be talking about today is circles. And we're going to talk about their equation. Here is what the equation of a circle looks like. All right, the center is going to be h comma k, the center of the circle, and the radius of the circle is just going to be r. Notice this is r squared. We'll have to fiddle with that a little bit to get it to be the radius. All right, so let's practice. What's going to happen is h and k are the numbers inside the parentheses. It's going to be the number opposite of what's inside the parentheses. So see how this is a plus 8? The first number for our center instead of a plus 8 will be a negative 8. And then this is a minus 3, so our y value will be the opposite of that, which is a positive 3. So it's always going to be the opposite. And then this number, 36, is r squared. Well, if r squared equals 36, to get rid of the squared, you square root it, you'll get a radius of 6. So for number 2, we have this. And what you're going to do is this one, you'll notice the y doesn't have anything. This is the same thing as y plus 0, quantity squared. All right, so the center is going to be the opposite, which is a negative 9, so the opposite would be a positive 9. And then the y value will be 0. All right, this number is radius squared, so if r squared equals 81, square root both sides, and you'll get a radius of 9. So it looks like that. For the next one, you'll see this is a minus 3, so the opposite would be a plus 3 or positive 3. This is a positive 7, the opposite would be negative 7. This number is radius squared, so if r squared equals 4, square root it, you'll get a radius of 2. So hopefully that's pretty easy to do. Now we'll do the reverse. Alright, so when you're doing the reverse, we're writing the equation given the center and the radius. Okay, what's going to happen is the first parenthesis is going to have an x, it'll be quantity squared, and the other parenthesis will have a y, quantity squared, equals, and it'll be radius squared. Again, this number goes with the x, and this number goes with the y. So, got your h and your k. So the h, the first number, is going to go in the first parenthesis. Since it's a positive 11, you'll do the opposite. It'll be a minus 11. Since this is a positive 3, you're going to put a minus 3. You do the opposite. And then this last number is radius squared. So make sure it's 4 squared. If you want to simplify that a little bit further, you can totally do that. And you can rewrite it as equals 16, because 4 squared is 16. All right, same with the next one. Okay, your center is h comma k. You've got your radius of 8. The first number, negative 5, is going to go with the x. It will be the opposite. So instead of negative 5, it'll be positive 5. And then with k being a 4, instead of a plus 4, you do the opposite, minus 4. And then radius squared, you'll have 8 squared. If you want to rewrite it so that it's x plus 5 quantity squared plus y minus 4 quantity squared equals 64, you can totally do that. All right, and same with the last one. You've got h and k. H goes with the x, you'll do the opposite. So instead of a negative, you'll put a plus 3. And instead of negative 1, you'll do the opposite. It'll be plus 1. And then equals radius squared. You can do 12 squared or 144. Either way works. All right, next part of it is graphing circles. So if you are given the equation of a circle, you can graph it by first identifying its center and radius. All right, once you know the center and radius, you can draw it. So like for this one, the center is always the numbers with x and y. Notice there is no number with x and there is no number with y. So our center is going to be 0, 0. And then this number, remember, is r squared. Well, if r squared is 36, my radius is 6. So what you're going to do is you're going to plot your center at 0, 0. The radius, you're going to go 6 to the right, 6 up, 6 to the left, and 6 down. And then you can create your circle, and hopefully you'll make your circle nice and round looking. All right, for number 8, we have Our center is going to be here at, do the opposite, so instead of -3 it'll be +3. Instead of a -2 it'll be +2. This 16, remember, is r squared. If you square root 16 you're going to get 4. So my center is going to be at 3, 2, and then we count 4 in every direction. So 4 to the right, 4 up, 4 to the left, and 4 down. Connect those points together and you get a nice circle. 9 is just the reverse. We're going to do, we know the center, based on the graph, is at -4, 2. The radius, we can kind of count it. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. So when you write the equation, remember it's the opposite. So x goes with the h. Instead of -4, it'll be +4. Don't forget to square it. And then we've got y, it'll be -2, quantity squared. And then radius squared goes last. Don't forget to square that. It will be 25. 5 squared is 25. Alright, and that's kind of how you do the graphing. Alright, then we get into the next page, unit circle. The unit circle is a circle that is centered at 0, 0, the origin, and has a radius of 1. So this is the equation for that. You can see the center is 0, 0, and the radius is 1. What we're going to do is we're going to find the center and the radius of a circle, and then we're going to write the equation after it's undergone some transformations. So dilated by a factor of 3, all right, dilated by a factor of 3 means that the entire equation is being multiplied by 3, all right? And then, so it's getting 3 times bigger. So if the radius is 1, it's going to be now 3 times bigger. 3 times 1 would give you now a radius of 3. Translated means it's moving. It's moving 4 right and 7 down. So our center, it was at 0, 0. It's now going 4 right and 7 down. Well, if you're going 4 right and 7 down, that'll land you at 4, -7. 4 to the right, 7 down. And so now once you have those two values, you're going to write your equation. H goes with the x, so instead of +4, it'll be -4, quantity squared. K, the -7, will now be y plus 7, quantity squared, and then you do radius squared, which is 9. Alright, so the dilated part kind of goes with the radius, and the translated part kind of goes with the center. So dilated by a factor of 8, so you're multiplying the 1 by 8, means our radius is now 8 units long. The center, because we're starting at 0, 0, it's now going 6 left and 2 up. That would be -6, +2, left 6, up 2, -6, +2. And then the equation, x, you'll do the opposite of 6, so +6, quantity squared. 2 is positive, so now it'll be -2, quantity squared. And then you do 8 squared, which is 64. Radius squared. Alright. For 12 and 13, we're just doing the reverse. We have the equations. We're going to write down what's going on, what's being dilated and translated. So if you look at this, the radius is 4. Nope, I lied. The radius is not 4. Radius squared is 4, so the radius is 2. Alright, if the radius is 2 and the original radius was 1, that means we're dilating by a factor of 2, because 1 times 2 is 2. Alright, and then notice the center for this equation is at +2, +5, doing the opposite. So 2, 5, that's 2 to the right and 5 up from the origin. So we are translating it, or translated, right 2 and up 5. Okay, and then 13, kind of the same idea. All right, you can look at your radius squared is 25, so the radius is 5. So to go from a 1 to a 5, that means we're dilated by a factor of 5. And then the center for this thing is 0, -3. So we're not going left or right, we're just going down 3. That -3 means down. So we're translated down 3. And that's all you have to do for those. Now 14 and 15 are going to be like what we did yesterday. We learned how to complete the square. That's what we're going to be doing in this problem. And then we'll be able to find the center and the radius of these circles. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of group them together by the same variables. So we got x squared plus 10x I'm going to leave a little bit of space. I have y squared plus 6y. All right, and I'm going to move the 12 over to the other side by subtracting it. So I get negative 18 on this side. All right, so I kind of grouped everything together. And what I'm going to do is I am going to leave a little bit more space after the y. Equals negative 18. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we have to complete the square. Once for the x's and once for the y's. For the x's, what you're going to do is you take the value in front of x, so 10, you'll cut it in half and you square it. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, 5 squared, you're going to get 25. So I'm going to put plus 25 here. Now because I added 25 to the left side, I do have to add 25 to the right side. I'm going to do the same thing with the y. 6 divided by 2 and we square it, 3 squared, we're going to get 9. So I'm going to add 9 into that parenthesis, which means I have to add 9 to the right side as well. Now, once we have that, these are now perfect square trinomials. The x parenthesis will now be x plus or minus something quantity squared. The y parenthesis will be y plus or minus something quantity squared. And if you add these numbers on the far right, you're going to get 16. Now, the way that it's going to factor, remember we did this yesterday, you look at the parentheses before you squared it. 10 divided by 2 is a positive 5, so positive or plus 5 is going to go here. 6 divided by 2 is positive 3, so I'm going to put plus 3 and put it there. Once you have filled those in, now you can see exactly what the center and the radius are. The center is going to be the opposite, so negative 5, negative 3. And radius squared is 16, so that means the radius is going to be 4. All right. 15 is very similar. We're going to group the stuff together. So x squared plus 16x, leave a little bit of space. Y squared minus 8y. I'm going to move the 10 over. I get equals 20. Okay. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square. You take half of 16 and you square it. So that'll be 64. And so you add that to the other side as well. Negative 8 divided by 2 quantity squared, that's negative 4 squared, that's positive 16. So you're going to add 16 to this side as well. Now you're going to factor these. Okay, look at the number inside of the parentheses before you squared it. It's 8. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So you're going to have x plus 8 quantity squared. With the y, negative 8 divided by 2, that's negative 4. So we're going to have a minus 4 quantity squared. Equals, and when you add all this up together, you get 100. All right, and now it's in the form of a circle. You can see the center is going to be negative 8, 4. You do the opposite. And the r squared is 100. Square root it. You're going to get a radius of 10. All right, what I'd like you to do is to try these problems on the next page. So pause the video and give those a try. Okay, so here are the answers that you should have gotten. In the first one, notice I grouped the x's together, I grouped the y's together, I moved the 24 over, giving me that negative 43. And then essentially what I did was I took half of 8, which is 4, squared it, you get 16. So I added 16 to both sides. The y's, I took half of negative 12 and squared it. That's a positive 36. I added that to both sides. And then you factor it. 8 divided by 2 is positive 4, so it'll be x plus 4 quantity squared. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6, so y minus 6 quantity squared equals, and then when you add all that together, you get 9. So then your radius is going to be the square root of 9, which is 3. Center will be negative 4, 6. For number 17, same idea. I grouped the x's together, grouped the y's together, moved the 35 over. That's where I got the negative 21 from. Half of negative 18, you're going to get negative 9 squared. That's positive 81. So I added an 81 to both sides. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4, so I added a 4 to both sides. And then they factor. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9, so x minus 9 quantity squared. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so that's y plus 2 quantity squared. And then this all adds up to be 64. And now you can see your center is 9, negative 2, and your radius is 8. So that's kind of the circle unit. Tomorrow we will move on to another conic shape. But for now, the homework that you're going to be working on for the rest of the period is 11 to 22. So go ahead and work on that. That'll be due tomorrow. We'll go through 1 through 22 tomorrow to make sure that you have any questions that you need answered by tomorrow at the beginning of class. All right, have a good day. Thank you.